In a recent New York Times op-ed titled "Our Democracy's Under Siege," 5 former Treasury Secretaries wrote about concerns over efforts to undermine the nation's financial commitments. We have one of the authors with us this morning. Jack Lew served as Treasury Secretary under President Obama. He's now a professor at Columbia University. And we welcome him to the broadcast. Good morning. It's nice to see you. Just take us behind the scenes in terms of your thinking to put this together, to contact all of these other Treasury Secretaries. Who said yes, who said no? Was there sort of a thought?
Did you call any Republicans at all to do it, Jack?
I think it's clear who said yes. The 5 of us signed
5
it.
Democrats.
And with a pretty broad range of views on a lot of topics. So bringing the 5 of us together is not a small thing. And it was rooted in a concern for the most basic core principle. I mean, as Secretary of the Treasury, as the piece says, each of us took an oath to uphold the laws and Constitution of the United States. Part of that is that Congress has the power of the purse, and there's a concern at the time, and I think still, that that is being challenged. There's also a concern that our payment systems are very complicated. They contain the most sensitive personal information about every one of us and every American. They contain national security information, and how they're handled has real consequences in terms of personal and national security.
Have you or anyone that signed that discussed any of this with Scott Bessent?
I haven't personally, others have. I should say I didn't organize the letter. There were a lot of conversations. I'm not sure who actually did organize it in the end. It was a shared concern that we needed to speak out on something that might seem a little dry, but is pretty basic. And
right.
You know, the third point I would make in terms of why is the notion that the United States pays all its bills is pretty fundamental. It's why the full faith and credit of the United States is trusted all over the world, at home, in every household that depends on a Social Security check or any other payment from the U.S. government. Putting that into question in any way has consequences that none of us fully understand because it's never been challenged, but they're serious.
So how much is your concern about, and I don't think it is this, but looking for the efficiencies, if you will, versus how these efficiencies are being examined and then what happens or around the process?
I don't think there's any concern, at least on my part, challenging the government to be more efficient. I spent most of my professional life trying to make different parts of the federal government more efficient, work better, provide better service. Those are laudable goals. The question is how you do it. And if you break the system as you do it and put people and the nation at risk, that's not the way to do it.
I mean, this is the first time that anybody's really gone in and decided to look at the sort of line items via the Treasury, right? Like historically, you would go to the different agencies and maybe you could look around and maybe you could figure it out, maybe you couldn't. This does seem to be the most efficient way to at least get at the underlying math.
On the surface, I see the logic to that, but that's not how the system works.
How does it work? I'm totally confused by it because it sounds like it's an antiquated system. There's all these different payment systems. None of them work together.
It is an old system, and it's the largest payment system in the world, so it's a complicated system. But the responsibility for basic program decisions and integrity is not made at Treasury, except for the very limited number of programs that Treasury runs. It's made at each agency. The law is made by Congress. The agencies execute it. The only thing that happens in the payment system is matching up names to people who are on a no-pay list for some reason because they've been sanctioned or found criminally liable. That's a mechanical process. Treasury doesn't have the skill or the people to do the program work. It's not Treasury's job. For 80 years, this was run by non-political career professionals whose job was to make sure that the bills were paid, they were paid on time, they were paid based on the instructions given. There are things you can do in the agencies on program integrity. As OMB director twice, I did a lot of work to try and improve program integrity. A lot of things we're hearing about program integrity are exaggerated and incorrect. I mean, you have to ask the question when we're seeing that a lot of the numbers that are tallied up confuse millions and billions. How much accuracy is going in to this kind of SWAT team that doesn't understand the complicated system and thinks you can approach it in the way that they're doing. I think that there's going to be more of that because I can tell you, having spent most of my professional life in the system, it's really complicated. Would it be good to simplify it? Yes. Can that be done in a week or a month? I don't believe so without breaking it.
Jack, the age-old question between Democrats and Republicans is, I guess, spending versus taxes. And I just have a really fundamental question. I saw some of your notes talking about if the Trump tax cuts were extended and how expensive that would be and how economically disastrous that would be in your view. And I'm just back to wondering what the right method. I mean, I look at what happened with the Biden administration. We were $3.5 trillion during the pandemic, and briefly he got down to $1.3 trillion for a deficit. Then we were right back up to 1.7, and in 2024 back to $2 trillion, basically. And that's just layering on more spending. Whether take your pick, the IRA, any of those things. Why is that better than trying to keep taxes for corporations lower, for individuals lower, keep it in the private sector, leave it there, and cut the spending? Why continue to ramp up the deficit why is that a better method?
So, Joe, I'm one of the few people who has been consistently saying we have to worry about our overall fiscal posture.
So the Biden administration did not do that.
In either a Democratic or Republican administration. I'm the only OMB director who's had 3 balanced budgets and surpluses. So I respect fiscal discipline. What I don't respect is pretending the tax cuts don't cost money. You look at extending the Trump tax cut, the savings that are in these budgets would barely, under pretty strained assumptions, pay for them. And then they provide room for another $4 trillion of deficits where there's magic savings that would reduce it to, call it, $2 or $2.5 trillion.
In 2017,
that is not a question.
Didn't corporate revenues, weren't they at an all-time high following the tax cuts of 2017? Aren't we?
The things that drive corporate revenues are a combination of things, macroeconomic conditions. I will say that this administration inherited a very strong economy. But when you look at what the cost of a tax cut is, it's projected by models that look at how the economy functions.
In my mind, that doesn't sound normal, that the cost of a tax cut. We should start with that I haven't paid the taxes yet. You need to justify the spending to tax more.
But, Joe, if you care about a deficit, $1 of spending and a lost $1 of revenue have the same effect. You have to borrow $1 to pay for it. So if your concern is the total debt and the annual deficit, you have to care about both.
But you see how Republicans and Democrats just talk at each other about this.
Believe me, I've spent 40 years working.
What do you make of writing the taxpayer a check in the form of effectively a refund or a dividend or something? Obviously, you'd be borrowing to do that.
First of all, you haven't paid any of the bills to do the new tax cuts you're talking about. So how you decide to do that on top of other tax cuts,
but don't you think that
the numbers have to add up.
The push to do that is to make this effort more popular?
Sure.
Isn't that what this is about?
Sure. Everybody likes to get a check in the mail. It's not hard to be popular saying we're going to send you some money. The question is, where does it leave you overall? If it leaves us deeper in debt with more borrowing, then it has the same effect as spending.